Hello and welcome to this first forecast here on Patrick's Weather Forecast. And today's forecast, we're going to be taking a look at the next 3 days of flooding across the United States, especially across the western half of the United States, as we do have widespread areas of flooding potential to talk about. However, let's take a look and let's get started on what we have currently ongoing across the United States this afternoon and evening. You can see there across the western half of the country, you can see noticeable showers and thunderstorms, widespread activity beginning to overspread those areas, especially across the Sierra foothills and Intermountain West regions, as well as areas extending off towards the northern high plains. We can also see there in the central half of the country also a broad corridor of showers and thunderstorms from along a corridor stretching from down in the southern high plains all the way up towards areas of the north central plains and getting into areas of southern adjacent provinces of southern Canada. Across the south central plains here in Texas and Louisiana, you can see that we do have widespread showers and storms begin to overspread the region. We also do have a severe weather threat on tap for portions of deep South Texas, including Brownsville, for an isolated confined corridor of severe wind gusts, as well as large hail being expected for those areas later tonight as the system does move through. Across the southeast, not looking at too much right now in terms of storm and shower activity. However, you can see there some noticeable light showers and storms popping up across areas of the southeast United States. The northeastern half of the United States, relatively quiet this evening and late afternoon. However, there you can see widespread clouds are overspreading the area, so it's going to be looking a bit cloudy to end off your day here today. You can also see a noticeable swirl feature up in the northeastern half, or actually past the interior northeast United States into areas of southeastern Canada near Ontario and Quebec. You can see that noticeable feature there on the top border of this infrared imagery. And then you can see there in association actually with this particular system, you can also see a band of heavy showers and storms really beginning to fire up here across areas of the north central plains, specifically across northern North Dakota and southern Canada. In those particular areas there, also including areas of southern Saskatchewan, as well as adjacent provinces into Manitoba. However, we're going to be mainly taking a look at the next 3 days of flash flooding potential across the western half of the country, as we do have a widespread flash flooding threat to talk about here. So let's go ahead and kick it off with our day one excessive rainfall outlook. There is a slight risk level 2 out of 4 for excessive rainfall, which equates to a 15% risk of flash flooding. This equates to also a 15% risk of flash flooding within a 25 to 50-mile radius of any given point inside that particular slight risk. This slight risk extends from areas of southeastern Wyoming, much of north central and central Colorado, specifically confined to the areas just to the west of the Denver metropolitan area. This will go down into areas of northeastern New Mexico as well as the far northwestern Texas vicinity, as well as areas of the southwestern Texas panhandle, which does include areas of Amarillo, Texas. A marginal risk is also in place that does cover this particular slight risk, which is quite large in nature and does extend from areas of the Pacific Northwest down towards areas of the South Central Plains, from Montana going all the way down to areas of southwestern Louisiana. Another marginal risk level 1 out of 4, or a 5% risk of flash flooding, is also evident in the north central plains as well as areas of the upper Midwest stretching from northeastern North Dakota as well as much of far northwestern Minnesota stretching down through the Minneapolis metro area, as well as getting into west central Wisconsin and areas north of La Crosse. And then finally, another marginal risk level 1 out of 4 does exist across areas of the Intermountain West and Central California mountain ranges today, where we do have the potential of flooding existing there, although more on a lower end scale. Here is your day 2 outlook here for the excessive rainfall probabilities, and pretty much no significant changes at all. The slight risk is going to be mainly remaining in the same areas. However, it is going to extend a little bit farther into southern central New Mexico, as well as basically stay into New Mexico. It's mainly going to be a New Mexico, far western Texas kind deal. It's not really going to stretch too much into the panhandle of Texas this time around. However, you do still have a marginal risk, which does extend into a little bit of the central and southern Texas panhandle. That marginal risk will extend from areas of central Montana down through the southern and central high plains, with another marginal risk which will exist for areas of the upper Midwest and northeastern plains, especially across far northeastern North Dakota, as well as much of western Minnesota, as well as far northeastern Iowa, north of Des Moines. We have a confined marginal risk as well for areas of the Gulf Coast states, including far southeastern coastal Texas, as well as coastal Louisiana, south of New Orleans, including some of the New Orleans metropolitan area, as well as including Houston, as well as areas just to the west of Galveston, Texas, and will be expanding across a decently large area between the two state coastal lines of Texas and Louisiana there. In addition, another marginal risk, although much more expansive, level 1 out of 4, is in place across the Sierra foothills, Intermountain West, as well as areas extending into southern Oregon, northwestern Nevada, as well as southwestern Idaho. This particular risk is going to be pretty much what's going to be happening across the next few days across that particular region there. And this is going to be basically what we're going to be expecting for the day 2. Now here's the day 3. The threat is going to increase a little bit across a confined corridor of south central Montana, where we do have the introduction of a slight risk, level 2 out of 4. But then there's pretty much no significant change. There is a few little shifts in the risk. The margin risk has been extended a little bit into central and eastern Idaho, as well as far northeastern Utah, as well as much of the state of Wyoming, excluding the far eastern side of the state. However, stretching mainly through the Rockies, central and southern high plains, as well as getting into areas of the eastern side of the Pacific Northwest. That slight risk, level 2 out of 4, does extend from areas like southeastern Wyoming down through areas of the central and southern high plains, extending a little bit farther into the Texas Panhandle this time around, as well as extending into a slight bit of the far southwestern edge of the northwestern Texas Panhandle, south of Kenton, Oklahoma. And then the marginal risk, which I did mention across the Sierra foothills and Intermountain West, relatively remains not significantly changed. There was a little bit of a northward shift, northward confinement as well as an eastern confinement, and now loosely remains upon a northeastern California, south central Oregon, as well as far northwestern Nevada, including areas like Reno and Carson City. Here is now the latest guidance here from the National Weather Service themselves regarding the expected rainfall potential. Taking a look at this right now, you can see here widespread totals across much of the central part of the country is going to be around the zero point 0.5 to 1 inch range. However, across the central and southern high plains, as well as areas extending back towards the Rockies and Pacific Northwest, we could see the potential for areas of 1 to 2 inches, especially across the highest elevations. And across those highest elevations across the western half of the country, including the Intermountain West, Sierra foothills, as well as areas of the central and southern high plains, we can definitely not rule out across those highest elevations upwards of 2 to 3 inches of rainfall. That can definitely not be ruled out. You can also see that trend with the upper Midwest and northern Great Plains there, across the Dakotas and Minnesota there, you can see, especially across northeastern North Dakota, along the corridor from Grand Forks and Fargo there in that general area, or to the west of there, you can see localized corridors of 1.5 to 2 inches being possible. Off the coast of the Carolinas there, you can see, in association with the storm system there, that's going to be mainly going to be bringing 1.5 to 2 inches of rainfall. However, that's going to be primarily off the coast. Across Maine, as well as areas of the interior northeast United States, we also could see a storm system move through, which could bring upwards of the potential of a half an inch to an inch of rainfall, especially across Maine and southeastern areas of Canada, including Newfoundland and Labrador. You can see there that we could see the potential of 1.5 to 2 inches plus in diameter being possible, especially across those particular areas. We're going to be having that storm system really overlapping there. You can see there that persistent feature there in Maine is going to be what's bringing that heavy rainfall threat to areas of Maine as well as Newfoundland and Labrador and Canada over the next 2 days, which is going to be dumping those rainfall totals as projected by the National Weather Service and the Weather Prediction Center. Now, here are some tips provided by me, which can basically prepare you for flash flooding and all kinds of flash flooding situations. You want to make sure that you not walk through flooded areas. Make sure to obviously not walk through flooded areas, as it could be pretty dangerous to venture outside during flash floods. Make sure that you know that you need to immediately seek higher ground if put underneath a flash flood warning. Make sure to also have a way to receive watches and warnings, especially flash flood warnings, as they could be quite vital for your safety. Make sure to also not drive into flooded areas where water covers the road. Also, make sure to not venture outside in areas of rushing, fast moving water. You have to also remember that it only takes a foot of rushing water to sweep a car. Make sure to gather and secure important documents, and also make sure to turn around and do not drown, and also be prepared in these flash flooding situations. Well, if that's going to be the forecast. I hope to see you in the next forecast. Thank you for watching, and this has been your first forecast from Patrick's Weather Forecast.